Have you guys ever been to prison?
No. No. We had a couple of opportunities in tour, I guess, sometimes, but we didn't get noticed, so it's okay. So far, so good.
No prison time for me, man.
No?
No jail time.
What about you, Gary?
Of course. I'll tell you one story. It was in Poland many years ago. The singer for a band called Pissing Razors
Okay.
and I, after the show, we took a taxi into the city from the gig. The club was only 10 minutes from the city center, but he decided to drive us around for like 40 minutes. And the meter was going on and on and on and on and on. To the point where I said, stop this, stop the fucking car.
Yeah, sure.
And we got into a little bit of a physical altercation, and he called the police, and the police took me straight away. The rest of it is very graphic and heavy, but I was actually on a gurney, and they had leather straps around my ankles and around my wrists. My appendages were turning blue because the straps was so tight. And every time I asked for them to loosen it, they would just laugh at me, really. And they would just walk by. It seemed more like an insane asylum than a jail, actually.
Right.
And I tried to get out, so I wore my Achilles down to the tendons.
Hang on, what the fuck? You were attached with leather straps in a Polish prison in the mid...
That's an Alcatraz story, come on.
Oh my god.
You wanted an anecdote? You got it.
No joke.
Yesterday I was actually watching a documentary about hardcore in New York, and what struck me about hardcore is that no matter what people continue to do with their lives, they always take the principles and sort of the mentality along with them.
I think the values sort of vary over time, but I think the underlying values that have always been there will always be there. So for instance, hardcore came up from the DIY aesthetic. It comes up from handling your shit and taking care of it and doing it. You know what I mean? And not taking no for an answer.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that we do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's over the years, there's plenty of different things that happen in the scene as far as values and views and all this stuff, and to each their own with a lot of this stuff. But I think the core values are exactly what we broadcast at all times. So
I think so. Propane, it's not a scene band, We're kind of, I can't say the black sheep, but we do our own thing. And I grew up in the New York hardcore scene. I was in a band called the Crumbsuckers, back in the day. It's one of the original New York hardcore bands. So my weekends when I was a kid in high school, my weekends consisted of just going to CBGB's or wherever, and just going to wherever the good shows were. And I had this band, and my first New York City show, Rogers Agnostic Front booked it, So he was very instrumental in helping us out and sort of getting a foothold in the scene. And we were very active in the scene. We used to go to Vinny Stigma's house after the shows. We used to cut stickers for all the Cause for Alarm at Agnostic Front and hang out, drink beers, and just talk shop, And it's those values. The values of the 80s hardcore, it was a bit different because 80s hardcore, it was something, the bands really wanted to change the world and make it a better place. And not that the later hardcore bands didn't. I think that value system carried over. But I think it got a little bit more fashion and more into a tough guy competition or something. And it got a bit more violent, the scene. And it's something that the early guys, like myself, we didn't want to see it turn into that, I always say hardcore music is for the youth, it's for the younger generation. I came from there, but I don't represent it so much anymore because I'm an older person now. I'm not a teenager.
But I think Voice of Rebellion still has the same sort of high energy level as any.
Absolutely, that's the band's roots. So we never lose that.
You gotta get with, that's why I'm not as one, but don't fuck with. My final fight is in the flashbang, and it's Friday night, alright.
I can't not talk about it, but obviously you've been beat up pretty bad in our country, and you had a terrible experience. So tell the people a little bit, in short, what happened to you.
It was a pickpocketing scenario,
Yeah.
but it happened to me outside of sort of a restaurant bar, a terrace area.
Because you were actually talking with these guys first, right? You were.
Everything was
right?
super cool.
Right.
You know, so it wasn't like we were talking any weird stuff or we're not being political or anything like that. When I was going back to the bar to go to the toilet, one of the guys, I asked them if they wanted some beers. And one guy says, okay, I'll take one. The other guy say no. One guy followed me in, but I didn't think anything about it. I come out of the toilet to the bar, order a couple of beers, and as I'm walking to the door, the one guy who wanted a beer comes in and he grabs it from my hand. I say, okay. And as soon as that exchange took place, somebody bumped me on the other shoulder and it spilled the other beer. And I didn't feel right about that. I thought something might have happened, you know. And so I put the beer down and I checked my pocket and my money was gone. It was in a white envelope with my passport in it and my credit card.
And it was a couple of shows worth of money as well, is that right?
Yeah, I had 7,200 euros in my pocket.
And is there any way they could have known that?
No.
No. So they got
lucky. You know, when this exchange took place, I confronted them. Obviously, if you get your money stolen from you, you know who did it, and you're staring them in the face. You confront them, you know. And before any physical exchanges took place, I got hit in the back of my head. And it felt like a bat or something like that. Adam told me later on that in the evidence bag, the police found the weapon and it was an ice pick and a set of brass knuckles. I didn't get a chance to hit anybody, you know, because I just went down and then three more people sort of ganged up and just were kicking me in my face and everything else. So this was all broken. I had a fracture here in my cheekbone. My eye socket was fractured also, and then I had the back of my head was split open too. And I ruptured an artery, you know, along here. And that was the most serious thing because of the bleeding. You know?
Yeah, sure.
It was like
you
a blur.
passed out, or you?
Yeah, I was passed out. When I woke up, it was in the ambulance.
So, and did anybody intervene, or did somebody try to stop them, or like?
Nope. No. I mean, somebody obviously called the paramedics, you know, and the police because they showed up. But nobody tried to help at all because when I was in the police station being interviewed, the officer invited me behind the desk to watch the footage. So I saw the video.
Oh.
You know, yeah, it was really heavy to watch.
That's heavy to watch.
Yeah, totally. I mean, people would pass by on the sidewalk and in the street, and nobody did anything. It was just like they would look and just they wouldn't do anything. And there's one guy that he looked like he was going to help, so he kind of like straddled over me like this, but he turned my pockets inside out.
Oh no! That's so messed up.
He was looking to rob me after I got robbed already. So.
Okay, this is not Belgium in general, though. I mean, just so you know.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with Belgium per se.
I hope you can restore some faith in humanity after that. But
yeah, of course.
you just seem to attract this kind of stuff, don't you?
Yeah, it's propane, you know.
Yeah.
It's not named appropriately. You know, I would have. If I had the right foresight, I would have named it something else. I would have named it like Pro Comfort or something like that.